Hello everybody, this is my Jungle Cup recap from July 13th down in Omaha. Big shout out to the Omaha guys for having me, thanks a whole bunch. It was a fun day, a long drive. 8 hours on the road is never fun for everybody, but wasn't terrible. It was a good day, all in all. So we're going to skip team composition at the start because honestly, why I took and then why I used changed drastically over the day. So we'll just do a team comp run at the back and we'll jump right into matches. I don't have all of the videos, unfortunately. My phone glitched and I lost round 1 and round 2 and the second half of round 3. But I do have round 4 and round 5, which are probably the ones you guys mostly want to see. So we're going to start now with round 1. My round 1 tournament was against Bruce. As I've played him before. It's not bad player by any means, but unfortunately he just didn't have time to prep, and it showed a lot in his matchups. No digs on him at all. It was tough matches for the most part, but I beat him in the lead. Game 1, as you can see here, I lead Venusaur versus his Alolan Golem. Just not a good matchup. From there, he brings in Venomoth, and I bring in Lantern, and unfortunately that's just not good for him either way, because I don't know why he just didn't switch out of that, but he just Lantern beats his Venomoth, and then Vigoroth cleans house with his Vigoroth, and it's game 1. Game 2 is a little different. I lead Lantern into his Wigglytuff. Not the best matchup. I was a little worried about this one going down to the tournament. I was debating bringing Magneton or Lantern. Thankfully, I do well versus his Wigglytuff, and I've got Venusaur on the back to cover his Vigoroth and Raichu, and it's just no contest after that. The Lantern takes down what little health he can on Vigoroth after the switch. I bring Vigoroth in. It's a mirror match. Goes my way. Raichu comes in, Venusaur cleans house. Just all in all, it really showed that he hadn't had time to prepare for a tournament, which is unfortunate. Game 2, end done. I lead Lantern into her Alolan Golem. Thinking I can farm this one, I probably did not have the breakpoint needed to. Her Golem probably had enough defense. I don't shield a Wild Charge, and I actually go down in the lead. But I've got Beedrill coming in to finish off the Alolan Golem, and she brings in her Vigoroth, if I remember correctly, which isn't the best matchup. Or maybe I brought in Noctowl. I don't remember. Either way, I get Beedrill in versus Vigoroth and Heracross, and it's just game over from there. I do remember that a Sludge Bomb went unshielded from Beedrill, which was the winning match. That allowed me to just clean house on the rest of her team. And that was one of the only times I used Beedrill. Game 2, Vigoroth versus Noctowl, which is not a good matchup for Noctowl. It's even if you play it correctly, but sometimes Vigoroth just beats up Noctowl too much. And from there, Lantern easily takes care of the Alolan Golem and the Vigoroth. Worst case scenario, I bring in Venusaur to finish off either one as well. So, solid win lead into tempo, and I maintain that. No mistakes on my part, and I don't think there was any mistakes on Endun's part either. I can't really remember now. But losing the lead and then just being outpicked in your team is not the way you need to go, unfortunately, in these smaller cups. So we're going to go to round 3, and this is the first video, so it's going to be good for you guys to see at least one match without me just talking over it. Round 3 is versus Eloisa. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, actually. It's kind of funky. But it starts off, I lead Venusaur into his Vigoroth, which is just a great matchup for me. And it goes just about as well as you expect. We both, as you can see here, we start duking it out. And I'm not stressed at all about this because I know I've got this in the bag, so I just farm energy as far as I can go. and I'm prepared to piggyback. I don't shield this because I don't want my Venusaur to be high health versus anything else coming in that might get farmed versus Venomoth or Noctowl. Definitely don't want to have a higher health. So taking that first body slam is definitely the way to go, I feel. I shield the second one because I don't want to lose this match at all. And immediately comes out the Frenzy Plant with the piggyback. And obviously, Elo just takes it because you don't want to 2-shield this fight. Not with that far behind. Sometimes Vigoroth can, but here I go for a Sludge Bomb. I don't get it, which is fine. I don't mind the excess energy farm on Noctowl because I've got the Lantern. So Noctowl's not going to do anything to Lantern. And he farms up, I guess, fires off a Sky Attack. I think he does try to duck out here. Maybe after my Thunderbolt. Yeah, I think I steal a Thunderbolt from here and take his shield, which really ended up poorly for him because I did not have a proper counter to his Venusaur in the back. Well, I guess he stays in. No, there he goes. Yeah, I do remember a switch. So he switches to Venusaur. I switch to Vigoroth. But 1 shield versus 0 shield, this is an easy fight for Vigoroth to take. And it's definitely not... he would have been better switching before the shield and then forcing the 1v1 versus Vigoroth. I think I still would have been able to take it because I would have had quite a bit of energy on Lantern. But if he'd have been able to farm any extra energy on Venusaur, that matchup could have swinged completely in his favor. That's just a point where his team was better picked than my team in the back because I had no proper Venusaur counter. And if you notice, a lot of my teams are very much weak to Venusaur because I felt like I was hating out Venusaur pretty hard with 3 picks. So that's game 1. We go to game 2, and this is the first game I lost and the only game I lose. It's not a pretty matchup for me. In fact, he doesn't even get through all 3 of his Pokemon. I lead Noctowl into Vigoroth, and after the second Sky Attack, I make the decision to switch, which just killed me. And for some reason, no, I think I didn't get 1 Sky Attack. I Sky Attacked to try and take a shield, which I do believe I did, and then switched into Lantern, which he just farmed Lantern with his Vigoroth. He didn't switch at all because he had no reason to. I meant to switch into my Beedrill, which would have been disastrous either way because of the Golem in the back. But I might have been able to come back from that matchup, basically pulling the Golem out, clearing it away with Lantern, and then being able to just, from there, hopefully clean up with Noctowl. But it did not happen that way at all. And Golem just shredded my team. So that's my loss. That was the one loss I had that day. Oh, yes, Sunday. No, Saturday. Correct. So we go to game 3. And I go straight back into my standard Vigoroth Lantern Venusaur team that I've been favoring the entire tournament. I do remember that I made the conscious decision to just put Venusaur back on my team because his team is so weak to Venusaur outside of the Venomoth and Noctowl, and just taking care of it, figuring that I have his Venusaur covered and Lantern is safe. And indeed, Lantern is safe. I lead Vigoroth into his Noctowl, which is not a good matchup for Noctowl at all. And he doesn't really have a safe switch into Vigoroth because I can switch into Venusaur, and Lantern cleans up both Alolan Graveler and Noctowl, and I do believe that's basically how it goes. I think he switched into Vigoroth, I switched into Venusaur, and from there it was just GG. There wasn't really much that could be done on his part, unfortunately. Maybe sacking the Noctowl, but then he really doesn't have an answer to Venusaur, unfortunately. So we go to game 4, round 4. And this is versus C9 Gotham. Very strong opponent. And one of the ones I was really worried about was him and Dean, because I've lost to Dean twice now, going down to Omaha. So I lead Lantern into his Beedrill. And you're going to see this video from the perspective of Gotham, because, again, I lost most of my videos. So thankfully he sent this to me. So you get to watch it from his end, which is kind of nice, too, sometimes. I do like seeing both ends of the video. My Lantern is very bulky, It's unfortunately not offensively based, which does help here because I do believe I actually meet the poison jab breakpoint to not take the additional damage. Therefore, I can beat most Beedrills. Although you'll see here that I correctly shielded that first attack, thinking it was going to be Scissor. I shield this Sludge Bomb coming out here, and then he gets to an X Scissor again, and I'm really worried about my health. I don't think I can take it. I don't know if I can either. So I shield it. Of course, then I make the mistake of Thunderbolting, or maybe I tried to Thunderbolt at the same time as he X Scissored. That's probably what happened here. And he had CMP, so he got it first. So he brings in Venusaur after my 2 shield. I'm down 1 shield he's got on me. So it's not looking great, but I did win the lead. So he gets a farm up. I think I'm trying to go for at least something, maybe damage. I don't want to give up switch advantage. I know that much. And I've got Fortress, who just walls Venusaur. He switches into Golem. I quick switch into Vig. But I don't have a shield, so I know I'm going to die to this Rock Blast. So I fire off Body Slam here, just to take as much health as I can, because I know he's not going to shield this. Although if he does shield it, that works out somewhat in my favor. He goes for the Wild Charge, because I don't think Rock Blast would have KO'd, but it might have come close. But Wild Charge definitely KO'd. I bring in Fortress and just take what little damage he had. He comes in with Frenzy Plant. And from here, it's just a race to the charge moves. Because I get this 1 shield last here. And it's actually a very close race because Venusaur is moderately bulky. I mean, it's taking neutral from Bug Bite. And Fortress doesn't have a whole lot of offensive presence. So he manages to, and I believe this is another CMP tie coming up here. Because we both hit the charge move at the same time. And this almost kills me. I was really worried I was going to lose right here. But I survived with 1 HP. And you see the Heavy Slam come out. So that's game 1 for me. Off of a sketchy lead. I don't know. So we get a game 2. And I lead Vigoroth into his Noctowl. And I do remember talking before the tournament where Gotham prefers not to switch out of leads if they're somewhat neutral. And even though it is a bad matchup for Noctowl, you do put some damage in, and he is not. The rest of his team is not very well positioned to take down Vigoroth, unfortunately. So he wants to put as much damage as he possibly can. And you can see here he's charging up for the double Sky Attack because he wants to try and snipe one of my shields with 2 Sky Attacks, which would work out great for him because he doesn't shield, and he goes into the match 2-1. So I don't shield the first one because I have a habit of not shielding the first one, which sometimes bites me in the butt. He doesn't shield the Body Slam because he doesn't want to shield the Body Slam. But then I managed to sneak in here and get the Body Slam before he can trigger his Sky Attack, which forces him to shield because he definitely wants to take a shield from me. So then he gets his Sky Attack and I shield, obviously. And then I just tear him down with counters. Oh, no, Body Slam. Sorry. I didn't want to risk another Sky Attack, I guess. And he brings in his Vigoroth, because Golem is just not going to do much damage here, unfortunately. And I don't have a Vigoroth counter. I really don't. So, and you can see the pause here as I'm looking at Fortress and Lantern going, oh. But I figure Noctowl's already out of the way. I don't need Lantern anymore. Because I figure he's probably got Venusaur in the back again like he did game 1. This is just going to be the same game over again. So I don't shield any of these. I go. And then my goal here is to take Thunderbolt and take his shield, which I do get his shield here in a second. And you'll see that. And I just let Lantern die, doing as much damage with Water Gun as possible. Right, and Lantern will just farms energy here, and which is the correct play because you want to hit whatever comes in hard to try and take that last shield from me. He doesn't expect Fortress, goes for the Body Slam or the Bulldoze, which is unfortunate. Does no damage, and I either just said I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to take whatever damage you can. And thankfully I saved that shield, because if I didn't save that shield, I was dead right here. This Rock Blast easily would have KO'd. And I go for the Earthquake, although I probably could have Heavy Slammed at this point to finish off. I think Heavy Slam does close to 50%, but I didn't want to risk leaving him with a slight bit of energy. And then I didn't even realize that Vigoroth was still around too. So that one caught me by surprise. So we go to game 5, or round 5. Sorry, not game 5. And it's versus LC. And this is for all the marbles. If I lose here, it's a tie. If I win here, I sweep. And I leave. This is back to my perspective again, because this is the one video that I did get to keep, and it's Fortress versus Vigoroth, and this is not a good matchup for Fortress. Although Fortress can get there, but definitely not when the Vigoroth player piggybacks and does a double. I think he might have snuck in a Bug Bite there, actually. So I don't think it was a complete double piggyback. But I get to the third Body Slam, and that's game over for Fortress. I don't want to risk at all trying to get Heavy Slammed again. I believe he brings in his Vigoroth here, which is an interesting play. This has probably let me win the game, because if he'd have brought in his Venusaur, I'd have brought in Fortress, and it's no big deal. I bring in Lantern, because again, Lantern's just here to wear down the Vigoroth, or bring out the Raichu or Venusaur, and obviously the Venusaur comes out, and I switch to Fortress, and it's just a farm. And this match is not pretty for Venusaur in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe I ever shield on this one, and I think I actually go to the end of this match with one shield. I might shield just to protect from... Yeah, I do shield eventually. I get hit with a Body Slam, and I just protect from it just in case. I feel there's no reason to not shield things, which is kind of funny given the last game. So the Heavy Slam KOs here, and we go back into the Vigoroth, and he gets a... Oh no, I get the Heavy Slam off. I think he has a shield left. Yeah, he had a shield left saved, and he gets a shield off, or a Body Slam off, but I shield, and it's Bug Bite damage will just finish off from here. So just an unfortunate, like a decent team lineup versus my team, actually. Like, in all ways, it does counter, but winning that lead is big. So we go here, final game, Lantern versus Noctowl. Not a good matchup at all. But I'm gonna Water Gun, because I just want to pick up any amount of damage he can before I can see what he switches to, and he doesn't switch. So I figure, okay, he's gonna stock up on 2 Sky Attacks and then switch. Odd strategy, but Noctowl could obliterate things in late game. But then he fires the Sky Attack off, and I'm confused, but I'm not going to shield this. There's just no reason to. So I go for the Thunderbolt to force his shield or just end the energy farm. But he shields, which really threw me for a loop. And another Sky Attack comes out. I don't shield this one either. There's just not much reason for me to shield, because I don't expect what happens right here, which is that he shields this Thunderbolt again. This really just confused the heck out of me, and could have been a strong power play if he did it slightly different, but 2 shields is really hard to come back from. And again, I don't shield here because I just don't expect Sky Attack to do much damage. I really underestimated it, and I figured I could get to the end without needing a shield. So he Sky Attacks here. I choose not to shield. This possibly could have been a mistake. I probably should have shielded here, especially considering the status at the end of this match. He brings in Fortress, which confuses me now looking back on his team, because he has a Venusaur in the back. So I don't know why he brings in Fortress. I go for the immediate Body Slam, because I want him to think I'm just going to Body Slam things, and he can potentially stock up on extra energy. And then I don't, and I go for a Bulldoze, which I don't really know why. I probably could have just Body Slammed and shielded whatever came out. And then comes Venusaur, and out comes Fortress, and this is just game over. There's just no way Venusaur comes from a 2 shield deficit. And yeah, so there's definitely points in time where I could have shielded and definitely gone into better. But I'm thinking if I shielded versus Noctowl, Venusaur would have come out and I would have sent out Fortress, but then it would have been Fortress versus Fortress. I think I had this match in the bag just because of the Fortress Vigoroth versus his Fortress Venusaur in the matchup. As long as I get Fortress in versus Venusaur, that's game. So that's my 5-0. Some statistics for you guys. Sorry about that. I pretty much led the same 2 teams the entire time. It was very consistent, and they worked out very well for me. I led Venusaur, Vigoroth, and Lantern for five games. The first 2 rounds, outside of that one Noctowl, Beedrill, and Lantern matchup, is basically all I was leading was that Venusaur, Vig, Lant. And it was very strong, especially because I did not expect Venusaur from my opponents at all. I figured my team was very anti-grass with Beedrill and Noctowl sitting there. It was very anti-Fortress. I just did not expect teams to bring, and clearly that was the correct way. The 2 times I deviated from my standard teams were the Beedrill knocked Lant, which I led twice, and 1 time was terrible for me. And the other time worked out well because Beedrill got in versus Vigoroth and managed to end that little sweep there. But otherwise, Beedrill and Noctowl were very underrepresented in my lineups. They acted like a scarecrow more so than an actual a bodyguard, but like just an intimidation factor, which really worked. And you noticed in the last 2 rounds, round 4 and round 5 versus the final opponents, I completely switched and brought Fortress. I do remember versus Gotham, I definitely wanted to bring Fortress versus his team. Not so much because it didn't have, or had really strong matchups. It had terrible matchups versus Vigoroth and Noctowl and Alolan Golem. Like, all I was getting was Venusaur and Beedrill. But I really expected Venusaur from Gotham game 1, given that my team was so anti-Venusaur. I think he was planning on seeing through that, which if I'd have stuck with the same 3 earlier, definitely would have worked. But I brought Fortress, managed to sneak it through on the Venusaur, and that was the key to victory there, game 1. Game 2, he switches up, he doesn't bring Venusaur, which is a lot tougher for my Fortress. Like, that lineup was very difficult, but because of the winning lead, and I could maintain tempo throughout the match and just maneuver Pokemon I needed to maneuver in, I could secure a win there where I very easily could have lost. If Lantern got locked in versus Vigoroth, and then Fortress gets locked in versus Alolan Golem or Noctowl, just that 3 versus my 3 versus his 3 were not very pretty. And then again versus Elsie, his team is, again, not very comfortable for Fortress. Noctowl and Vigoroth and Raichu. Raichu does do well versus Fortress, although Fortress does put the hurt on. So it's not a fight Raichu wants to take. It's not like Magneton, where Magneton can kind of just shrug off, or Magnezone even can really shrug off the bug bite damage. And Vigoroth. But again, a proper lead into his Fortress with my Vigoroth, and then game 2 with my Lantern into his Noctowl just sets me up for the rest of the game to maintain tempo. And that's ultimately, I think that's what happened yesterday, was that I just solid fundamental gameplay, nothing really fancy. Like, there were a few crazy switches I did trying to gain tempo back or protect life HP totals, but nothing like the world switch or anything like that, where you saw me snipe charge moves with the 3rd shield switch, so to speak. Just good solid fundamental gameplay and no mistakes on my part this time around. So it was really refreshing to get a win like this under my belt, where in previous tournaments I've made mistakes and just struggled with various opponents. So this was really, really big for me, I feel, just going for it. Like, I'd been kind of in a slump tournament-wise. My remote tournaments hadn't been going well, so it was just a big morale boost, especially when I pop back into Discord and a few of my friends, like I go back in. It's like, oh crap, I'm done with the tournament. I got to report these results. Let people know what's going on, because we're collecting data and trying to figure out what people are running and Wigglytuff and all that fun jazz. And they'd already seen it. They not only had they seen it, they'd been following it since round 3. And so just popping back into the Discord and seeing those cheers and people chatting, like without even me knowing, because I turned Discord off because I just wanted to kind of just ignore and focus on the combat. So it was really big. Like that was, to me, that was bigger than winning the tournament. Just having people cheering in the background. So big props to you guys. You know who you're at. But for team composition, I'll try and keep this short. Maybe cut out some of this in post. I threw together my 6 sort of last minute Friday night, because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to make it down to Omaha on Saturday. It required a lot of rain to happen, and it did. We got a half inch of rain in town, and at my work, I would have had to stayed and run sprinklers and water all day to try and keep the grass from dying. So that half inch of rain basically allowed me to go. I woke up in the morning, saw the rain, and just went to work and shut everything off, and boom, I was on the highway and was going. So I threw my team together last minute Friday night. I knew I wanted Venusaur and Vigoroth and Noctowl. Like those 3, definitely. And I knew I wanted Fortress to keep Wigglytuff at bay. I was going back and forth on Magneton or Lantern. I had been favoring Magneton a lot, but I figured Lantern's safer neutral matchups would do me well in a meta. I really didn't know what I was going into, unfortunately. There's the thing about the Omaha tournaments is that there's a good mix of strong competitors, and there's a good mix of just off meta stuff that people bring to try and either gain an advantage or just lower skill players, and not in a derogatory term or way at all. Just people who bring favorites or want to try something different. So I felt Lantern was a lot safer there. And at that point, I was really weak to Vigoroth. My only counter was Venusaur. So I brought Beedrill in. And for me, Beedrill fell short. I really like Beedrill. I really like what it can do. And I ran it a bit in Rainbow. But just here in these tournaments with... I think it was the amount of Alolan Golems I faced, because those were really strong. And that might have been why I did so well, because I brought Lantern all 11 games. I never left home without Lantern. Lantern and Venusaur were just every game just about, and that core is really strong too, because there's not a whole lot Lantern and Venusaur can't beat together. So, and then Vigoroth just typically doing what Vigoroth does, safe switch or pressure or shield, and just it was huge. And again, a big shout out to the Discord friends, because I posted my link to my team and asked them to kind of punch holes and critique it, and most of them were like, it's, balanced team, it does well, it's like you got to worry about Venomoth and a few others, and I was like, yeah, but I don't really want to drop Beedrill because then I'm weak to Vigoroth. I was like, no, just worry about Venomoth, just play around it. So big shout out to them again, because if I didn't have them, I probably would have flip-flopped to my team 3 or 4 more times, and then might not have gone with these 6. And if I'd have dropped Fortress or Venusaur, I think I probably could have dropped Venusaur for Victory Bell and done fine, because Venusaur basically just was a grass attacker. I never really used Sludge Bomb, but it definitely was useful extremely. And I think if I'd have faced more Vespiqueens, there were a few Vespiqueens there, and other not really off meta, but just the non-standard meta that I faced, Sludge Bomb would have come in handy over Victory Bells. Just maybe get to Sludge Bomb, but probably die. There definitely were times where Venusaur tanked a Body Slam or 2, compared to where Victory Bell wouldn't be able to. So certainly a solid pick on my half. But that's kind of my thoughts on Jungle. Hope you guys enjoyed, And I will look forward to next month. Thanks.